Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is doing great on today because I am. The last time that I was on here, we spoke about how we view the opposite sex, and that was dealing with sight. But today we're going to be talking about all ears, which is, of course, dealing with hearing. But just going a little brief summary about what we talked about the last time we were on here. We talked about how we view the opposite sex and, seeing a person for who they really are is the most important thing, because sometimes, society has highlighted, seeing a person physical attraction and that screwed up many people, so how we view the opposite sex is very important. Getting to know a person for who they are, communication as in conversing, talking to them. But today we're going to be talking about all ears, which deals with hearing. So we have to recognize that the five senses plays a major role in fleshly battles, so what we hear can disturb our whole entire walk with God. And that's so true. Like, hearing is very powerful. And, and so many times, like, we can mistaken what a person say, and we can take it in and give our own definition or our own summary of it, and it never means that, so we have to be careful about that, such as, like, sometimes hearing compliments, like, just because a person complimented you, saying that, you look beautiful today, you smell wonderful, that does not mean that he wants to marry you. But sometimes in the mind, because we can be so used to being programmed a certain way, that when a dude approach us, or I'm just using this as an example, but if a person approach us and be like, ma'am, you look very beautiful today. If your mind is not programmed that that's just a compliment, sometimes you can be like, child, I knew he was looking at me the whole time. Yeah, I seen how he, seemed, yeah, look, I knew he felt that way about me. But in reality, it's just a plain out compliment. Like, you look beautiful, So it's very important that we understand that, what a person says does not necessarily mean what we are thinking, because sometimes our mind can automatically, and sometimes it do be true, but sometimes we can make up our own summary of something, and that's not even the case, and it can be very embarrassing. I'm just going to say that. So we have to train our minds, because sometimes it can be in a sexual turmoil. So, like, pretty much, if you I when I was in the world, I would say, we will be talking, and a conversation come up, and someone be like, okay, I'm going to use this as an example. Certain fruits was related to a woman's, private area. So it's just like, I'm just going to be honest, stripper names and stuff like that, you notice that sometimes they like to be called peaches. Sometimes they like to be called strawberry, because it puts you in a sexual mind if you're not trying to, if you do not, reprogram your mind. And I thank God for that, because coming out the world hearing that, always hearing a woman compare herself to a fruit, it's like, okay, now I can just be like, oh, I want a strawberry, and or a man be like, okay, oh, I want a strawberry, and if I didn't program myself, and that's something that I used to call myself, it's more so like, oh, he's saying he want me, but in reality, that's just the way my mind is programmed. He just said he wants some strawberries, sis. He didn't say he wants you. So it's just like, it's very important, such as, like, if someone be like, oh, this is a nice peach, they really talking about a fruit, they really picking it up, and the whole time you turning around looking at your behind, because you think, they're relating the peach to your butt, so for instance, the woman at the well, her mind was not pure. And, many of us know the story about her. So just to elaborate on the story, God had said to her, give me a drink. Give me to drink. I'm sorry. And the well pretty much symbolized, itself represented a woman's vagina. And the bucket, of course, represented, a male's private area going in and out, okay? So that automatically, a lot of single women used to be up there at the well. So it was more so like bait. Like if you're up there, it's like, okay, you're single, you want to be taken up, and many people found their wives up there. So when the woman heard Jesus, we understand that her mind was already, because the way she responded to him, her mind was on something sexual. It wasn't she didn't understand at first until Jesus had broke it down to her, like the living water, like, okay, this water. Okay, so in Romans chapter 10 and 17, I'm going to turn to that, and it reads, "So then, faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God." So hearing is powerful, because if I can receive faith and deposit into my spirit by just hearing and hearing the word of God, so me hearing can get me some faith. Hearing is so powerful because that's the word of God. So, it's like, if faith comes by hearing, what else can come by hearing? And, if a person is battling to learn, like battling words, or, they misinterpret a lot, it's good to look at words as spirits, because, it can truly help. The power that we have in our ears over our heart, I'm just going to speak on me. When I came into the church, I done been to several churches when I was in the world. So before I came here, I never really was pricked in my heart. I was there hearing, but it didn't really do anything to me. But my experience coming here to Church of God, the Bibleway, I remember hearing the word of God, and even months prior, because I was demon possessed when I came in, but months after that, me being delivered, even hearing him preach and bring forth the word of God, certain things pricked me, and it made me automatically want to do something about it. Like, I did not leave out the same way, and that was just coming from the man of God, speaking what God said over the pulpit, and that did something to my heart. So if the hearing was affecting me that much, then just imagine if you let somebody, pour lustful sayings into you, just imagine what that can do to your flesh. Your flesh is going to rise. Your mind, thought processes, like, it can be off. It really can. So it's so important, to train your mind into, not thinking a certain way. Because I remember when I was in the world, and I'm just going to relate back to me, it's so important to, ignore commands that can be targeted to your spirit. Because I remember when I was talking to a dude, and he used to be like, "You're mine." It wasn't a question. He was telling me. He was pretty much commanding that. And I found myself at a certain point in my life submitting. Because it was like I kept hearing that, and it was more so I started submitting unto that. He didn't ask, it was not a question. He didn't say, "Are you mine?" He said, "You're mine." So he telling me, and I never went against his words. It was more so I never spoke it back out of my spirit. So it's just like, even now, just, hearing things, certain things, I can't be around certain people who, just talk about people all day, or, something like that. I can't be around certain conversations, because it's more so if I sit there, I'm going to get contaminated. And then I don't want my thoughts to be, something that it's not supposed to be. So I'm glad that we're speaking about hearing, because, when I was, growing up, knowing that if I was, okay, for instance, being around adults, I couldn't be around adults when they talk, because of the things they were talking about, and they once knew, that, okay, this is not for a child ear to hear. Even though they may not go and commit the act, if this child hear this, it may get into their thought process. Curiosity may, kick in. So it's it's natural. Hearing is very powerful. So now, knowing that if I sit up here and I put myself in an atmosphere that I know will shake up something, and I know that it may, throw my thought process off, I don't want to be in it. That's why, knowing that it's a hypnosis spirit, some people can be influenced by that. So if they're under that and they're throwing this command to your spirit, they're not asking, like, they're not saying, do you want me, baby? Because that's a question and you're able to ask. But a person who comes off and say, you want me, baby? I know you want me, baby. You want me. I know you want me. It's more so you're not giving me the chance to answer. You're more so telling me. So right then and there, you will have to speak that back out. It's so important. You will have to rebuke what the words that was spoken. Because if you do not come against the words that is spoken into your spirit, it's more so like you're accepting it. And, sometimes it can put you in a awkward moment because you don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. Sometimes you can be like, well, do they really mean that? Like, is this just the way I'm thinking? So then you feel like you're off. So you really don't want to say anything. But when a person is like demanding you, like, yeah, I know you want me, this, that, and the third. Okay, you speak against that. But sometimes it's good to be neutral, not responding. Like, I know many times, like, when I was in the world, going to certain gas stations, where it was a lot of males up there, and they used to just always, any woman that will walk in and out the doors, they always threw themselves on that woman. But sometimes you have some women that will walk into the store and pay them no mind. And then you have some women that will look, and not say a word, but they'll look. And they gave them something. But then you have some women that will be like, oh, stop. Like, don't talk to me that way. But it's best in those situations, those predicaments, to don't say nothing at all. Because if a person is, hey, La Mama, look at you. Oh, you thick, stuff like that. Of course, I wouldn't even want to be referred to that, but it happens. But sometimes, even though you don't refer to yourself that way, hearing those rude compliments, it's good to hear and not hear. So keep going, like, walk away from it. So when a person's speaking to you, as I said before, learn to speak it back out. So I'm going to read something out of The Struggle is Real. Okay, so it says, on several occasions, Jesus gave commands to people, and they did so. Arise, take up your bed, and walk. And that's in Mark chapter 2, verses 1 through 11. So if you do want to take that upon your time and read, that'll be good, because then you can kind of see more where, we're coming from, And it also says, the man simply obeyed. He was under the command of Jesus. Jesus' words became stronger than the palsy. When the blind man went to Jesus, he told him to go wash. Jesus' words became stronger than the blind man's sight. If you have people speaking into your spirit lustfully, thoughts can overpower your will. So hearing that, it's more so like, so you mean to tell me people speaking into my spirit lustfully, because they're speaking lustfully, which I'm not saying nothing. The thoughts can overpower my will, because think about it. You can be sitting, you can be at home, minding your business, not worried about doing anything, that can get you in a sinful condition. But if it can be a simple conversation of you, and I'm speaking to like the sister, so it can be a simple conversation with you and a male. No disrespect, no nothing. But he can be like, oh, I know you miss me. And then your mind, even though y'all in two separate locations, your mind start wondering like, well, I probably do miss him. Because he threw that command to you. He didn't really say, do you miss me? He said, I know. So he's saying, I know what's going on. I know you miss me. I know you feel this way. So it's more so like, if you don't come against it, it's just like, okay, I'm home. he said he missed me. I remember when we went out to eat. I remember when he did this. And then you start thinking, and your will was to not get yourself into anything. But next thing you know, you hanging out with him without a chaperone. You doing something that you ain't got no business doing because you started letting your thoughts take over your will. So I'm just thankful because when I was in the world, I truly didn't understand all of this. So my mindset was, I didn't know that all thoughts wasn't mine. I didn't understand that. I knew words were powerful, but I didn't know that. I pretty much did not know the depth of it, I'll say, because when I was in the world, we spoke. Many people be like, oh, words are powerful, and I knew that, but I always would, refer it to life and death. So it's more so like, okay, I never really looked at it as, oh, this person's saying this to me, or, he just said something sexual to me, and I didn't know that I was supposed to ignore. Even though I probably didn't agree with what he was saying, it was more so like I was saying, like, don't try me like that. I didn't know that I could have just stayed neutral and act like I did not give a response, because even though it's not the response that they want, it's still a response. So they feel like it's still tapped into you. You still heard it. You can think about it, but it's best to ignore. So knowing this now, I'm very thankful, because now I can see ways to protect me on this walk with God, knowing that, hearing is very important. And like, if I know that just by me hearing, the word of God, I can receive faith, because that's how it comes. I know I can receive and deposit more things into my spirit that is not supposed to be there. So, putting myself in an atmosphere that I do not belong in, it will be my fault. Hearing conversations, staying around, knowing I'm not supposed to be listening to that, that's my fault. I also know, like, okay, even with music, we really don't talk about that as much, but I was a music person. So, and I used to back in the day, I'm not that old, but, back when I was in the world, I used to listen to a lot of R&B, a lot of slow, stuff that really talked about catering to a woman, this, that, and the third in a way. And, it pretty much will always be something lustful or, sexual. So even the songs, this man don't know me, never seen me a day in his life, probably don't even know I exist. But the words he was spoken, even though he was not singing to me personally, the words were so powerful because it replayed in my spirit. So the more I would sing, it put my mind, my thought process became of what that song was talking about. So it was contaminated with lustful desires. It was contaminated with, sexual thoughts. And it's really not supposed to be that way. So when your mind is all stirred up, because sometimes we can go through that, like our thought process can be off. Now, some things is not you, some things, but you have, that's why it's good to know who you are and know, okay, I know I wouldn't think nothing like this, but it's also good to know who you are. Like, okay, I've been thinking like this, every time I hear him say, oh, you look beautiful. He never acknowledged me. He never said that he wanted to get to know me for me. All he said was I look beautiful. And every time I see him, I get this feeling in me that he want me. Am I, is something wrong with me? So before you, because listen, me personally, I do not want to take what a person is saying and put my own twist on it. Because not only is it embarrassing, but it's more so it's dangerous, because if your thought process is that off, I think it's toxic. Because being in that predicament once before in my life, I didn't like my thought process. So, knowing that I can't hear just anything, I'll say, like, if I was just giving advice, or someone came to me, a sister came to me, or a lady came to me, a friend, they came to me and they wanted to say certain things, like speaking about situations, like pretty much I had friends that came to me when I was in the world. I couldn't really give them a good advice, because I was more so contaminated myself with my hearing, because it's not like I was hearing anything positive. But now having this deposited into me, if, a person was to come to me for advice, I can now say, okay, hearing is powerful. You cannot listen to these certain conversations because, listen, I don't care. If you sit up there and listen to a certain conversation, I don't know, but my spirit, I don't know about anybody else, but my spirit gets, it's like a ill feeling. Like I don't feel content. Like I just feel like something is wrong. Like my mind pH balance is off. That's how I think. Like something wrong. What my thought process? I don't like this. I don't like this feeling. So knowing, okay, myself, knowing what I intake daily, and like nowadays, social media, just the generation we live in, period, you can hear anything that you're not supposed to be hearing just by clicking on a simple video. It's so easy to hear something. So I'll say, even if you're not surrounding yourself around people, the videos you watch, it's so easy to tap in onto TikTok and this, that, and the third. And I noticed that on certain videos, they can be doing something innocent and funny, but the music that's playing over the video is something that, you're not hearing. So even though you're watching something and you're focused on the watching, the sound of that music, or, the stuff that they're not supposed to be talking about, the sexual, the lustful things that they're saying in that music, even though you're watching and paying attention to that, it's pretty much killing two birds with one stone, because you're watching, but you also hearing. So you never know how that can affect your thoughts. So I'll say, when I first came into the church, listen, I have 2 Facebooks. One of my Facebooks was my old page that when I was in the world, and I just changed it to my real name, and I just kept it. But the crowd on that Facebook page is very worldly. The stuff they share, just by looking at a certain post, it can contaminate you. The things, lives, the stuff they be saying, the music they be playing on their story. Like, I don't want to sit there and watch anything. When I first came into the church, that's the reason why I made another Facebook as well, because I was just like, I do, social media, which you don't have to have it, but personally, I wanted to scroll without having to feel like, like not hearing something I'm not supposed to be receiving in my spirit and stuff like that. But speaking back on my old Facebook, I can't, like when I first joined the church, I couldn't watch certain people's stories, because even if it was something innocent of what I just said about TikTok videos, the music, like I know what it can do. It's powerful. Like, it's powerful. Words, now I look at words as spirits, because if I don't, it's more so you can let things just slide. You be like, oh, child, that's just music. Because when I first joined, it was just like, I'm not watching. Like, no. But sometimes you can let your guard down, and then you just start watching these videos because you really want to see what happened next, because now they got it to where you can edit these videos, and it's just like, okay, you want to see what's next. So you ain't really trying to hear. You find yourself turning the volume down on your phone and this, that, and the third, because that's a natural instinct right there. You're not supposed to be watching it, period. But even if it's something, not bad, it's like you instantly turn down the volume on your phone and you still try to watch it. But I found myself doing that and yet still hearing what was playing on the video, because I did come out the world. I heard a lot of worldly music. So even if it's just an instrumental of, the worldly music, it's just like I already know myself. So that's why I pretty much said all that I'm not trying to even put that in my spirit. I don't want to watch any of those videos. It's kind of like, okay, even though, you can, because of course you're going to hear this music regardless. But it's like, it's a difference from putting yourself in actually listening to certain things, because of course going out to like restaurants and things like that, sometimes they do be playing worldly music, but you also have to catch yourself with that, because I can have a conversation with a person. And I'm like, okay, I know I can't help that. I can't go back there and be like, hey, can you change the music? I'm eating in this place. But like, I have been around people that would end up jerking to the music accidentally, or they kind of joke with it. So that alone hearing can disturb you. So it's so important. So I'm thankful that I know that there's so much power in hearing, and I know that for one because what I said before, when I got saved, when I did come into Church of God the Bibleway, it was more so like the word of God pricked my heart. Like I wanted to change just by hearing simple messages because I didn't know the depth of it. But if the word of God can prick my heart just by me hearing, if I received faith in my spirit, then I know I know I can deposit some lustful thoughts in my head. And we all in flesh. We all have fleshly battles, and if we do not understand these things, we will always have flesh, like our flesh will always rise. And so just to be on the safe side, examine yourself. Ask yourself a question like this. Okay, my mind always thinking this when I see this person. Is it a reason why? Because, it takes two. It do take two. Like I'm going to say, for instance, the saying, it takes two to tango, and I'm pretty sure people know what that means. But if a person, it takes two. So if that person is, trying to talk to you, you can tell when a person has interest in you. But if a person never came to you that way and you're feeling some type of way, because I have been in certain situations where sometimes a person, even before I came into the church, sometimes a person can have a dude number, this, that, and the third, and they automatically feel like they deal with that person because they don't know that you can be friends. And it was the mindset. Even though a person getting a person number, is no harm in that whatsoever. It's nothing wrong with that. You can have guy friends. But sometimes, like, if your thought process isn't right, him asking for your number, you can be thinking, okay, he trying to get to know me, but you ain't gonna say nothing. So that's your thought process all along. And then, okay, of course, like, okay, y'all talking, just having a normal conversation. Y'all just having a normal conversation. You just like, yeah, he like to talk to me. Oh, he always FaceTiming me. This, that, and the third. Oh, I know he liked me, but it was never once said. He just looking at it as, this my homegirl. I called you because I wanted to see a female perspective, But it's all in the mind. That's why now, if a person, because I never really knew the depth of it, hearing older folks say, that must be your friend, your little friend. Your little friend did not mean that's your homeboy. It meant that's the person you're dealing with. So now hearing things like that, you have to speak against, like, look, I don't know what your definition of, but listen, this is my homeboy. So stuff like that. So to encourage someone, today I'll say it's always good to look at yourself and examine yourself and pretty much look at where you're at. Don't lie to yourself. Be real to yourself. Stay true to yourself, because if you ain't real with yourself, then don't expect nobody to even be able to help you in certain situations, because you ain't even trying to help yourself. So be real with yourself. Think about your thought process. Why I'm always thinking like this? Because if you think that way, then 9 times out of 10, that's you. So to encourage someone, I could say, value yourself enough to exit out of situations that can do you some harm. Because even though it's hearing and you're not saying anything, it can contaminate you. So I really hope that, this helps someone, and also remember that people can be under a hypnosis spirit, and, they can be sending commands to your spirit. So even think about that with certain conversations that you're having with the individual. And it don't always have to be a male. I'm just using that because it's common. But pretty much, like, look at what they're saying. Is it a command or is it a question? So that's important. So I pray that this helps someone, and I pray that, y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day. So in my conclusion, I'll say, listen, you got this, and you can, make it on this walk with God. Just know that it's good to know that our five senses plays a big role in our walk with God. And if we do not be aware of our senses, then we can fall. So it's good to know that. So I just want to say you can make it, sis. You most definitely can, and stay encouraged.